The Chieftain will probably suck, and this sound is the culprit. You may be asking, what has boosting got to do with the Chieftain? To explain that, we need to take a quick look at the history of the boost button. Rewind to Elite's closed beta, and modules weren't really a thing. Back then, we effectively had C-rated power distributors, and the best combat ship was the Viper 3. Boosting, when you convert your power distributor's engine capacity into a burst of forward speed, was a massive investment with a relatively large payoff. Then came the introduction of A-class modules. You couldn't rely on having constant boost performance, but could still boost a lot more thanks to the A-class distributor. Later, we got more and more combat viable large ships with larger capacitors. NA-rated FDL with 4 pips to engine can boost almost constantly. That is, as soon as a boost finishes, it can very nearly immediately boost again. And then came Engineers. The most popular and effective distributor mod is Charged Enhance, which can result in a huge increase in recharge at the cost of a small reduction in capacity. As such, the limit of boosting stopped being the distributor. As soon as a boost finishes, we can immediately boost again. We've now hit the hard limit, what I like to call Permaboost. So why is Permaboost such a big deal? Well, let's look at how boosting actually impacts your ship. The most obvious thing is that it flings your ship forward at high speed, but that's not all it does. Shortly after you press the button, it grants a variety of temporary bonuses to almost all your ship's maneuverability stats for 3.5 seconds. For one thing, your lateral thrusters get a lot stronger. You can accelerate and decelerate faster in every direction and pull off impressive maneuvers. Also, your turn rates, that is, pitch, roll and yaw, get 2 huge bonuses. First off, turn rate stops being speed dependent. Even if you're far outside the blue zone, you'll turn at your optimal rate. Secondly, that rate receives a further bonus, which also stacks with any benefit from flight assist off. These bonuses used to be marginal, to temporarily get your ship in the right position and avoid obstacles. They were powerful, but occurred infrequently due to the high cost of boosting. But now, the ability to constantly boost is making this temporary benefit a massive part of combat. The possible proportion of time spent in the beneficial 3.5 second bonus zone has gone up and up. A modern modded FDL can spend 70% of combat with access to these incredibly powerful maneuverability bonuses, almost double what the beta Viper could reach. You can even achieve 2/3 of your time in this beneficial zone with only 3 pips to engines, assuming you have a top tier distributor. Permaboost has become a massive problem. Look at the FAS and FDL, 2 of the best and most oppressive combat ships in the game. The FDL's weakness is meant to be its poor out of blue zone pitch rate, making it heavily reliant on speed management and focused on medium range combat. But Permaboost overrides this weakness, making it an incredibly strong close quarters brawler that can ignore speed management completely. Or look at the FAS, a strong ship with considerable weaknesses in shield strength and poor lateral thruster performance. It's meant to be good at dishing out damage, but poor at maintaining range and dodging projectiles. But Permaboost supercharges its weak laterals, causing it to excel at the medium range combat that's meant to be its weakness. You can see this in the meta PvP builds that are becoming popular. The FDL, historically the medium-range vessel that struggles up close, typically runs short-range efficient plasma accelerators with a close-quarters playstyle. Meanwhile, the FAS, formerly the in-your-face brawler, often equips long-range focused plasma accelerators or high projectile velocity cannons. Outside of these two, ships that can't benefit from Permaboost are left in the dust. Slower ships where boost is less useful, like the dropship, gunship and Python, are far less viable in PvP combat compared to the FAS and FDL. What's more, Ships like the Vulture that trade the firepower and tankiness of an FDL and FAS for a more consistent pitch rate and better lateral thruster performance are consistently outflown by the very ships they're supposed to outperform. Permaboost completely erases the advantages these manoeuvrable vessels are meant to have. This is why I think the Chieftain will struggle, not only in PvP but in PvE as well. It's designed to be far more manoeuvrable than the FDL or FAS, likely meaning it has a more consistent lateral thruster performance and pitch rate. These benefits to manoeuvrability will require sacrifices, most likely to things like firepower, internal space, shield strength, or hull resilience. The problem is, Permaboost means it's going to be almost impossible for the Chieftain to leverage its advantages. In combat, the FDL and FAS will be able to perform just as well simply by pressing the boost button. There'll be very little reason to buy, use, upgrade and engineer a Chieftain. So what's to be done? Well, one answer would be just to buff the Chieftain, so that it had to pay less for its relatively irrelevant manoeuvrability advantage. But this doesn't address the core problem of Permaboost. Permaboost makes ships less distinct, erasing all individuality and flight profile beyond firepower, tankiness and raw speed. There's also a big impact on weapon viability. Medium-range low-burst weapons like fixed multicannons and non-long-range lasers are incredibly hard to use due to the nature of Permaboost combat. Buffing the Chieftain and other ships would make them more useful, but the game as a whole would still suffer from Permaboost. Instead, it might just be better to address Permaboost directly. There are a number of ways this could be done. One would be to put a lower hard cap on how often you could boost. Despite engine capacitor, if the time between boosts were forced to be greater, then Permaboost would no longer be an option. Another would be to reduce engine recharge rates across the board, while increasing capacity. You would still be able to boost lots, but once your engine capacity ran out, you'd have to wait a long time for it to come back. A third potential answer is to rebalance the benefits from boosting, and make some of them last less long or have less of an extreme effect. Of course, all these solutions have problems. It might make slow ships too powerful, unbalanced distributor priorities, or simply make flying less exciting. I will admit, it is a lot of fun boosting around stations, asteroids and other players with little downside. But Permaboost is unbalancing the game, dumbing down combat, and making ships far less distinctive and interesting to fly. Elite, and the Chieftain, deserve better. I've been Commander Alexander the Grape. Thanks for watching.